It's true that I joined Facebook. When I got on Facebook, it's really easy to get. I mean, you just type in Facebook and they tell you how to register or not. And then I discovered after I got on Facebook, all my children are on Facebook, all my grandchildren are on Facebook, and one dog, their dog, is also on Facebook. And I think Facebook is going to be changing, the way we relate to each other. I'm okay. Yes. I think Facebook is going to change drastically the way we relate to each other. I mean, I find that most of the young adults in our church are also on Facebook. So, like, I don't know the young adults too well, but but by going into Facebook, I see their pictures. I know a little bit about their history. And one of the church members, I just discovered on Facebook that has a girlfriend who is going to Stanford. I mean, that's something that I could never know. And then next time I see him, I can say, "How's your girlfriend doing?" All right. So it's and then I was absolutely delighted a while back when you had a preaching rotation at your English service, and I'm very grateful that you included me as part of the rotation. So that lasted, 2 or 3 years, and then so I really kind of looked forward. But then when Emily came, it became evident that it's not the same as the old regime. So I told him, and then I'm sitting down talking to my wife, and I think my wife really likes me to be in church on Sunday with her, and then I don't actually sit with her because I sing in the choir, and I tell my wife, I'm the tall guy in the back row, the good-looking tall guy in the back row. So I think that makes her really happy, and so when she's happy, I'm happy. We have this absolutely wonderful text as we move into the Lenten season, and I want to talk about this text not so much in terms of like the temptation of Jesus, but I'm kind of interested in the fact that when he was in the desert and he was thinking about how he was going to carry on his ministry, that he was actually guided by the free texts that he quoted, because Jesus was Jewish. He was raised in the synagogue. We know that he was completely familiar with the Hebrew text. He used it on a number of occasions in the Sermon on the Mount. And then in this experience in the wilderness, he was guided by these texts that he had learned from early childhood. And so I'm going to talk about these free texts and how these free texts actually guided Jesus' life and ministry. The first text that he used was, "One does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Once a year, about 8 or 10 people and I and my wife, we go down to St. Anthony's in San Francisco. This is a Roman Catholic ministry. It was started maybe several decades ago in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. And now it has a $16 million a year budget, all contributed by private donations. I mean, they receive no money at all from the government, and they have a feeding program. And so we go there once a year, not so much by the fact that they need our help, but I go there just to remind myself that not everybody has enough to eat. I mean, I just remind, and I love going there because they're very respectful of the people that come. The ones that cannot get in line for the food, they can be seated and we bring the food to them. You know, there's a special time for women with young children for them to come so that they can get the undivided attention of the staff. They're very respectful of the people that come. When the people come and they're not properly dressed or bathed or they cannot say be sitting next to people, they bring them the food so they can eat wherever they want. And so I was really, and they don't have to sit there to listen to a sermon. You know, it's like, listen to the sermon that will feed you. And so I go there to remind myself that we cannot live unless we eat. Right? So even though we do not live by bread alone, we have to have bread. And bread symbolizes all the physical needs, not just eating, but we have to have a place to live, we have a way to get around, we have to. So my son belongs to a church up in Davis, a fairly large independent Baptist church, and they cooperate with a number of churches in the area to provide housing for the homeless. Now in Davis, you know, there's not a lot of homeless people in Davis because not like in San Francisco, but there are homeless people in Davis, and during the winter months, it gets very cold, so you cannot sleep outside. Now many homeless people want to sleep outside, they don't go into shelter. When it gets really cold, you don't sleep outside. So these churches get together and they provide sleeping quarters. They feed them and then they provide a place for them to sleep at night. Now the way they do that there is that they have to go to a place and get a shower and clean themselves up, and then they come to the churches that they're assigned to, they have a meal there, they sleep there at night, and then by 6 in the morning they have it gone. And then it's not a long-term solution, but it's a recognition. Churches take part in this because churches recognize, even conservative fundamentalist churches, who ordinarily are not concerned about society at large and the issues of, you know, even they know that part of the Christian imperative is that if you see somebody's hungry or homeless, that you need to do something for them. So when I was at First Chinese Baptist Church, you know, during the 60s and the 70s and into the 80s, you can leave the church door open. You know, sometimes I'm working there at 10 o'clock at night. I'm the only one there. The door's open. Anybody can walk in. Anybody can walk in. And so once, and we noticed that every morning there was a man that came up, went into our restroom, closed the door, and he was there for like 10 or 15 minutes. And then when I went, after he left, when I went in, I see that there are little hairs, you know, in the basin. I mean, he's washing up, he's washing his hair, he's using the toilet, and you know, so this, after a while, this made me kind of nervous because he's coming in every day, and it's not that, you know, we know that people come in to the church to use the restroom. Like if I were to come to Oakland, Chinatown, and I needed to use the restroom, where would I go? Is there a place I can go and I mean, like, you know, it's a problem. I mean, it's a Galai Church in San Francisco actually has a sign that says restroom, you know, and then you go down there, there's a restroom, but the stalls have no doors. I mean, you have to be really desperate, you know, but it's there, all right? It's there. And then if you go to San Francisco, Chinatown, you have these signs that restrooms for customers only, right? So, I mean, I'm thinking if I'm stuck here in Oakland, Chinatown, where would I go? I have to go into a restaurant and say, order wonton or something. And while the food is coming, I walk to the restroom. But so, all the things that we kind of take for granted, we need these things. So like, I have two daughters, and then when they were dating, I try not to interfere with their personal life. But then when they think they found the right one, then I get interested. I get involved. First thing I want to know, does he have a job? Does this man have a job? Because if he doesn't have a job, then he cannot fulfill. We cannot eat. We cannot have a place to live. We cannot live without bread. And but what this text says is that we cannot live by bread alone. It is so the alone part is the important part. That we can be fed, and we can be housed, and we can have a job, and we have an income, that we have no problem meeting our daily needs. Is that enough? No, it's not enough. Right. Why? Because life needs a purpose. We have to answer the question, why are we here? What is life for? Do we eat, drink, and be merry, and tomorrow we die? So, these questions are always kind of on the fringes of our life. So Jesus decides that before he begins his ministry, that he's going to minister to the needs of the people, but that's a central focus of his ministry would be to help people to love God with all their heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love the neighbor. He says, we live by bread, but we do not live by bread alone. We do not live by bread alone. So like we are Chinese parents, especially if you're a tiger mother, you want to make your children jump through all the hopes because you want them to be able to make a living. But making a living is not the same as making a life. Right? And so that's the one contribution that the church could make that nobody else can make. I mean, other people can feed the hungry, and they do, and house and so on. The government does a lot of these things. And a lot of things that are started by churches, like hospitals and so on, are taken over by secular agents, and that's fine. But the one thing that the church does that nobody else does is that it helps people to know God and to work toward a world that is more just and more equal. Okay, so this is the first text that guides Jesus, that one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. Now the second thing is the devil says, okay, you get up on the tower, you jump down, and this is something really spectacular. God will somehow rescue you. In other words, you're after all, you're the Son of God. You ought to have some way of doing your ministry with some extra supernatural help. Now, I've been looking at a lot of Kung Fu movies. Sometimes when I get depressed, I look at Kung Fu movies, and these Kung Fu people are endowed with skills and abilities other people don't have. Right? And sometimes, you can't help but fantasize that you like to live in this world with these extra supernatural talents and capabilities. Right? And I've been thinking about Jesus' life and ministry. Just think about the gospel account of Jesus' life from beginning to end. Everything he did, he was completely unarmed, and he had no advantage at all. I mean, there's a story of Jesus and his disciples going through a town in Samaria. And when people are traveling those days, they depend a lot on the local hospitality. And so the Samaritans were not too hospitable to them. So the disciples said, why don't you send thunder down and zap them? Okay. All right? Teach them a lesson. Right? We teach them a lesson. Why don't you zap them? And then when Jesus was on the cross, the people said he was saving others. Himself he cannot save. And that's true. Jesus made himself completely vulnerable as a human being in terms of everything that he did. He did it for us. So when we say that Jesus died for us, it's just another way of saying everything that, it's just not that he died for, everything that Jesus ever did in his life was for our benefit. Now you think of it, there's nothing that Jesus did ever in his life and ministry that was not for us. I can't think of one thing that he did that was for himself. I can't think of one thing. So, in the Christian faith, while he was ministering to the people, everything he did completely as a human being without supernatural help. None at all, right? None at all. He was completely unarmed. None at all. The resurrection takes place after Jesus died. You do not have supernatural intervention on behalf of Jesus' life and ministry during his ministry. Not at all. So, in the very beginning of his ministry, Jesus realized that he's going to perform his ministry without the expectation that he's going to get any supernatural help from God. None at all. This is a truly amazing thing. I just started thinking about this a couple of weeks ago. That Jesus' ministry completely relied on his trust in God for everything, that everything he did for us was for our benefit. So that's the second thing. The third thing is where Jesus says, worship the Lord your God and serve only him, because the devil is saying to him, I can make you famous, I can make you known, I can make you honor. Now, it is true that the world can do a lot of things for you. Like, they can give you the Nobel Peace Prize. You want it? And they can make you the bishop of the Methodist Church. And somebody said, of course, even in the church, there are ways to be honored. And I remember Bishop Stephen Neal said, of course, in the church, you need to have people occupying the so-called high places. But he said it'd be a sorry day for the church when the people that are occupying those places are the people that strive to be there. That would not be a good day for the church when the people that are occupying the places of honor and the highest places and the places with the most responsibility are the people that strive to be there. So so as I think again about the life of Jesus and what he did, what the world can do in the way of honoring him, he absolutely didn't care about that at all. The one thing he did care about is he cared about doing what God wants. So when you go to the Lord's Prayer, I've said this many times when I'm here, when you say, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, you're basically saying, God, I want what you want. I want what you want for my life. I want what you want for my children. I want what you want for this country. I want what you want. So the entire life and ministry of Jesus is based on this. He's saying to God, whatever it is that you want, that's what I want. All right, that's what I want. Okay, so we don't live by bread alone. We need bread, but we don't live by bread alone. That we carry out our life and ministry without the expectation, actually, of divine assistance. And that we depend on our faith and trust that God is with us in what we do. And finally, always to remind ourselves that being a Christian is about wanting what God wants. Now, I'm very interested, that during the Lenten period, that you're actually using this as an opportunity to allow the Spirit to kind of transform your life. Right? I don't know whether it will happen or not. I know that we can't make it happen. All I know is that your worship team is trying to provide an environment during this Lenten period for the Spirit to work so that it might happen. I wouldn't want you to say, I've been coming to this church for 10 or 20 or 30 years, and I'm not been changed. Christian life is about being transformed, not just by being informed, but by being transformed. I myself am not in the people correction business. I tried this with my wife for many years, and I have not succeeded. She tried to change me too, and she hasn't succeeded. But only God can change us. And that can happen when we open our hearts to the Spirit's leading. And I pray that this will happen to you during the Lenten season, and that I like what somebody said about giving your full attention to the leading of the Spirit. When we're singing today, those hymns, the words, are very meaningful, but of course if you're not focused on it, you're not focused on it. The Buddhists call this, they have a word for this.
Mindfulness?
Mindfulness. Thank you. You're not a Buddhist, but you understand. Mindfulness is to kind of give you full attention to whatever it is you're doing, whether you're eating, whether you're, and mindfulness. I mean, coming to church and be completely mindful of what's happening here. That through the simple ways of singing, prayers, litanies, and so on, God can speak to us.